All right, I'm just gonna sit down here and kind of give my first impressions, first thoughts on the new map and the first day here that I got to spend with it in Pokemon Unite. We streamed for like 9.5 hours. Full disclosure, I would say the games were fully awful. Almost. I don't want to be like, I'll just like address it early. I thought the games were pretty terrible, and it is what it is. Some seasons start out really bad. This started out really bad. I think outside of the new map and all that, that's just a thing that happened. So I feel like I have to mention that the games were bad. And I do think there's a good reason that the games were bad, and it partially has to do with the new map. First of all, I think, yeehaw. I think we have a lot of players coming back to the game or coming to the game for the first time. So there are going to be some growing pains with that. I think the new map has some really cool things about it and some really tricky things about it. And I do not think we are going to see this map stay in this state super long. So one thing that I have noticed with this map is Pokemon that take a while to scale have a really tough time on this map. So there's a lot of experience on this map. It feels like there's definitely more experience than before. There are more objectives than before. There's Regidrago, which gives team-wide XP and gets KO'd extremely fast and is a really important objective. There are just so many pieces of experience on the map that are there actually very early. And if you cannot secure them, if you are a Pokemon that's slow to get going, if you don't have good secure moves, if you don't have a good lane ally, etc., etc., if you get jungled and you're just super far behind, I feel like you're going to have a really hard game. And we definitely saw that today, where if I was playing a Pokemon that did really well early, and especially if I was playing something in jungle that did really well early, the games would go much better. You could snowball the games a lot easier. You could have a lot of influence over the map. If you were playing something like, I had a match where, I'm just remembering, this was somewhat recent to me recording this video. I had a match where an ally was running Gardevoir and Garchomp in the same lane, and they had a miserable time. And it took them forever to get online, or like we had lane Greninjas, it took them forever to get online. There is a lot of experience, but if you're not a Pokemon that's good at securing it, and if you're not with a lane ally that has either EXP share or is also crazy good at securing, you will find that good early game Pokemon take over the entire match. And I don't think that is super healthy for the game. So there are like two parts of the map that I kind of want to focus on. The early game, which I'm talking about right now, and then the late game, which is kind of the Groudon element. So early game, you have junglers clearing jungle, and then they decide whether they're going to head to lane or they're going to deal with the Natus in the middle. If you're a fast jungler, you can kind of do both. You can go to lane, you can clear your jungle, run either top or bottom, fight for a moment over some of the contestable farm, make your way to the center, fight over the Natus, and then still make your way to top or bottom lane. Now, you have to be a good jungler with really fast clear to make this happen, but you absolutely can do that. And to have on one side of the map a jungler that can do that, and on the other side of the map something with really slow clear that takes a long time to get online, like Delphox coming out of the central area, I think you're going to see very quickly how this matchup is bad. So in some ways, there's definitely more of a skill gap that happens because of that, but it's also not even a skill gap as much as it is just I have picked a bad team gap. And one of the toughest things playing this game solo queue is your allies never care about picking a good team, and making it harder for them is it's something, right? In competitive, teams can draft around this, pick around this, but in solo queue, you're gonna get allies that want to play, Gardevoir. They want to play guard, and they want to play it in lane, and that means they're probably going to be at level 4 forever. and just get completely demolished by the other lane. And the next time you run into them, their Zacian is level 11. And I do think we're gonna see some slight changes to the map because of that. So you have that early part of the map, then you have Regidrago, which is also like essentially the first big objective on the map. It feels like it has moved away from top or bottom Regi, which isn't, it's a very important objective, but it's not the big first objective. Regidrago is the big first objective. And it goes down so fast. You KO this thing so unbelievably quick and give your team-wide XP. I remember one match, I was jungling, and on the other side there was a Greninja jungling, and we kind of won our exchange top. I think we KO'd them and everything, but the next time I saw them at Regidrago, they got to Regidrago slightly before me, and they had already gotten its HP down to half, and I think it was just Greninja there. So this thing is valuable, probably. Maybe the value is fine, but it's very valuable, and it gets KO'd so insanely fast. And then it gives them a, the Regidrago buff that allows you to score faster, which I don't think is the most relevant part. The EXP is clearly the most relevant part of this objective. So the early game has so many mechanics in it right now that feel like it makes it really easy to snowball for one side, which I don't think is super great. Then there is the late part of the game, which I actually love. I love Groudon. I think Groudon is so much better than Ray. I have had fights and fights after the objective that have been so satisfying. So, as a team, just securing Groudon doesn't mean you're gonna win. You get Groudon, you become a lot more powerful, which is actually a huge part of it. But your scoring is not Ray scoring. You are scoring very fast, but it can be interrupted. It is it is the most game-changing thing outside of the crazy early game, which actually might even be more game-changing. But Groudon's end fight is phenomenal. I love it. I love that you can defend against teams pushing, steal a buff, run the other way. We had multiple matches end in some really, really satisfying fights and some really satisfying pushes and counter pushes after Groudon that we did not get with Rayquaza. We had multiple matches where we would say in chat, that would not have happened with Ray. It couldn't have happened with Ray. However, the early game being it's just being so easy to make it one-sided led us to entering a lot of the endgame fights with one team already completely dominating the entire match. I felt like matches in this were more one-sided, and that could just be like some crazy allies and things like that. Matches in this were more one-sided than they have been in our Rayquaza games. However, the endgame fights, when they were like good endgame fights and back and forths, were amazing. So some of the matches I think were god awful and really, really tough to enjoy because of how much, if one team has an Absol on it, right? That Absol runs to the top path. They make it there. They KO the Decidueye on the other side that is, or whatever, the Cinderace on the other side. It goes down. It's still level 4. Then the Absol continues to run amok. It gets some more experience. It runs back up to the lane at some point, continues to KO that Cinderace. Now that thing is like stuck at level 5. And on the other side, because there's so much more experience in the top, in like everywhere on the map, it feels like, because there's so much more experience, a team that gets an early victory just keeps winning over and over and over again. And the next time you see Cinderace, maybe it's evolved to Cinder at level 7. And there are people that are already 12. I was finishing so many matches at level 15, way more than normal. Like I'd be at Groudon, I was about to say at Ray. I'd be at Groudon at level 15. So I think we're going to see some big changes in this map. Probably to the early game. Hopefully not too much to the late game. But those are my thoughts on the Groudon map. I really like it. The games were miserable today, but I do think there are really cool changes in this. I would love to hear from you in the comments. What do you like? What do you not like? I'll have a video coming out on Palmot here in a little bit. Palmot's interesting. All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I love you. I'll see y'all next time. We did it.